Hello! Before we get into the video, I wanted to let you know that I launched my undated bullet journal. This is a full bujo with pre-designed spreads, so you don't have to spend time making art, and instead can just customize this journal for yourself. It's also undated, so you can start it whenever you want, or skip a month. If you're interested, I'll have the link below to my online shop. Okay, love you, hope you enjoy the video. Hello, welcome to my 2024 February bullet journal setup, the month of love. Now, would it be a bullet journal setup of mine if I didn't try to film this once already before and mess it up? No, it would not. So, spoiler alert, this is my first attempt for the cover page of my February bullet journal setup, but I ended up not liking it at all. So after spending like 3 hours filming on Saturday, we're trying this again on Sunday, and let's get into the second time's the charm, I guess, for this cover page. What I have here is a piece of sticker paper, and on it I've drawn with pencil a window with roses around it, and I tried to make it a very gothic-y window because, as we'll talk about, my theme for this month is kind of rose theme plus dark romance, gothic vampires, like all of that put together. So it's roses climbing up a windowsill, and then there is also someone inside the window. This is our vampire character. Yeah, that's basically what I'm inking in here with my Ohuhu fine liners. But to talk about my first attempt of this cover page, I did it on Saturday, and I think I had a lot of good things going. Basically, whenever I plan out my themes, I've unfortunately recently not had a lot of time to plan out things beforehand, so I do a lot of things like the night before, honestly. I used to give a lot of thought into my theme ideas, but more recently, in the past couple months, almost year, it's less important for me. I used to put a lot of weight and emphasis in my theme ideas because I wanted them to be perfect, but now that I've been bullet journaling for, this is my 5th year, it's not as monumental to create the most amazing theme ever because I know in a couple weeks it's going to be moving on to something different, you know? So because of that, I do a lot of things pretty last minute. So Friday night, I had sketched out that original drawing with the full body of the woman, not her face, and the art itself is a little different too. There are a couple different things in the background. I'll put an image here on the screen so you can kind of see it for just a second side by side, hopefully not too long because I don't want to traumatize you with that ugly photo. I'm kidding. But yeah, so my issues were a couple things. I hadn't really planned out how I was going to color the image. I had an idea in my head, but because I hadn't sketched out on a separate piece of paper beforehand, I messed up by coloring in some of the windowsill with a dark color even though I wanted to leave it white. So then I had to go over it with white gel pen and it looked kind of sloppy. Additionally, I didn't like how I drew the character in the window. I thought she was kind of creepy and not really well proportioned. And also I started using colored pencil because I wanted to give that character like a veil, and so I figured colored pencil would be a good idea to keep it like kind of translucent so you can kind of see through, kind of not. But because everything else in the art was done with alcohol markers, the colored pencil and the texture of the colored pencil really clashed with the smoothness of the markers, and so it looked super out of place, and that I think was the last straw for me. So because of that, I decided Saturday night, you know what, let's just pause this. Let me re-sketch this and I'll come back on Sunday and refilm it. So that's what I did. And so if there's a little bit of like back and forth in this video with like the shirt that I'm wearing or like the position of the desk, you know, don't mind that. I had to film this on multiple days, but I'm still very excited with how the finished product turned out. So I'm excited for you guys to see this full setup. So as you guys can clearly see, this new drawing is a little different. The vampire girl is closer to the window. She's also holding a candle, so there's a flame in her hand as well as behind her. I also drew her slightly differently, so like you can see her fangs more. She also has horns. There's also a little bit of blood dripping down her chin because, like I said, she is a vampire, and I'm really leaning into like the gothic vampire-y dark romance kind of thing, which is not something you very often see for February as it is the month of love. But I don't know if you guys are readers. I love reading and I like dark romance, and I also love vampire romances. So I was like, you know what? Let's take a twist. Let's do something a little different this month, and I'm actually really excited because this is a theme I haven't seen before, and I hope you guys can take inspiration from it. And if you guys do recreate it, let me know, tag me on social media. I would love to see it. But anyway, with that being said, I want to talk about the coloring process of this for a second. So like I said, I'm using alcohol markers to color in everything, and because I had already done this once before, I kind of knew what mistakes not to make. But I started with the roses on the windowsill because it's the easiest part for me. I didn't have to think about any specific lighting because although those inside the room or the building, so they're behind the windowsill, are going to be affected by the candlelight that's also sitting on the windowsill. Anything outside, like the roses on the outside of the building, do not have that light that needs to be like brought into the picture. So I could basically color the roses however I wanted to, which is basically just red, green, simple as that. But then with everything behind the window and inside the building, I had to take in consideration the candlelight. So I have one candle in this woman's hand and then one behind her on a stack of books. And personally, I didn't do this too realistically. So when I drew the flames, I have like the main flame and then a couple like flecks of orange light coming off. But whenever I finish coloring this, I'm not gonna do like ombre yellow effects or whatever, like radiating out like light would be from candlelight. That's too much for me. I don't need to put that much effort into a simple bullet journal drawing like this, but I still wanted to make it seem like there was light reflecting onto the woman's skin. I did definitely use a reference picture for this so I can kind of make sure that the light was somewhat realistic. So I'll put the reference picture here on the screen that I used, but using this I could make sure that the front of her that was facing the candle was lit and then the back was dark. And then also in the image there's like a halo of red light around her, so I decided to replicate that as well in this background. So as you can see, I'm using different red colors to create a gradient around her. I'm doing it in like almost stripes and then going back in with the previous color, like blend out the stripes. I feel like it's a lot more harsh on video. In person it's a little better of a blend. It's not perfect still, but it's, you know, it does the job for my purposes here. And then once I kind of got all the gradient around her from red to a dark brown, then I used that dark brown, almost black color to color in the rest of the background. Like I said, I really wanted to make this like a gothic window, like it would be seen in a very old castle somewhere in like Eastern Europe. And so I really like that I included the, you know, special designs and arcs, and also how you can see like the lines of window crossing over her body, because I feel like that adds a little bit more contrast into this image. Whereas the background is super dark, if the lines crossing weren't there, it would just look like one big black blob. But because the lines of the windowsill are there in front of her, there is more contrast and it doesn't seem like an overly dark image. This is the same reason that I colored in her outfit with the dark brown as well. I was debating keeping it white, but because there is white contrast with the windowsill and also her skin is a relatively lighter tan, I felt like there was enough contrast here to make her shirt black and not seem overly like a super dark image here. Anyway, that's just a little bit of color theory and contrast that I like to think about when I'm making art like this, because I mean, I like to have certain effects, but I don't want everything to be like too saturated or too not contrasty. There has to be a better word for that than not contrasty, but my brain's not working today and that's as good as we're gonna get, unfortunately. But anyway, I'm just finishing up this drawing with a white gel pen, which in my experience works really well on top of alcohol markers. And so I'm adding little sparkles, flecks, especially around the firelight to kind of show the firelight crackling in the dark, and also to kind of add some highlights to the roses on the outside of the windowsill to make them pop and stand out from the background. I didn't mention this before, but this entire time I'm doing this, my crazy hair is like popping into the video. I'm so sorry. I really try not to get my head under the camera as much as possible, but some things I'm like super detail oriented. I really have to get close to my art to make sure that everything is staying in line, you know? But for some reason, my hair was just crazy today and I had a crazy piece sticking up out of nowhere, so I'm sure that's very annoying for you guys. My apologies, but I already filmed this video twice, so we're not gonna do it a third time to make sure that my hair is not in the way. So you guys will have to deal with it. It's fine. We're chilling. Once my art is finally done, this took me hours and hours, but I could finally peel off the back. And this is one thing that I love about sticker paper. I've mentioned this a bajillion times on my channel before, but this system is perfect because alcohol markers don't bleed through the sticker paper, and I can just quickly peel off the back and stick it right into my bullet journal. So with that, after adding the word February below my cover page picture, this cover page is done, and let's move into the rest of this video, which is the main bulk of my spreads. Okay, so as we move into the rest of the setup, I do want to say if you guys are enjoying this video so far and want to see more bullet journaling and productivity videos from yours truly, make sure to subscribe. I post every single Saturday, and also I have a really exciting video coming next week that I really am excited to talk to you guys about, so subscribe so you don't miss that one. Alright, so the cover page took a very long time. As you guys could see, it was very art intensive, but there really is no purpose to a cover page except for looking cute and pretty. So let's move into the rest of these spreads, and as you can kind of see by the little flaps, this is actually one large Dutch door. So because you can see by the sketch there is a lot of art and like a lot of detail going into this spread, I was too lazy to draw any more art on any more pages. So instead of creating 3 separate spreads with all different layouts and art to make them decorative and cute, I decided to do a Dutch door theme here, which I think has been more of a trend in the bullet journaling world. People have been experimenting a lot more with Dutch doors in the past year, I feel, which I'm excited about, and I'm glad to join the club. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this Dutch door, like how I did it, because I did obviously cut it off camera for those who are new to bullet journaling. But basically, usually to make these 3 spreads that I'm going to make here, my calendar spread, my academic planning spread, and then my tracker spread, have 3 different spreads in my bullet journal that I would flip through, right? But instead of doing that, I had the first spread open, and then if you look at the right page of that spread, I like cut around the right edge and then the top and bottom to make that page like smaller, which is why it looks like it's like a tiny miniature page inside of the big one. And I did the same thing for the next page, and then when you flip that over, that means there are 3 spreads in total, but the middle 2 like sheets of paper are smaller to kind of allow for you to see the 3rd spread over those middle 2 pages from the front. That may have been a very bad explanation, but it's super hard to do this with just like words, since obviously I didn't cut this on camera. So you guys will just have to see. If you want me to make a full tutorial on like Instagram Reels and describe it more in detail, I can. Let me know. But for now, like this is just this is the best I've got for you guys. But as you can see, the art like overlaps all of the pages. So it's basically on the left side, that's the first spread, and on the right side, that's the 3rd spread that I drew on. And then I obviously cut around the middle too. So the art that I have here is candles, roses, books, a skull. I think there's like a chalice or like a goblet, whatever you want to call it, on the last spread. And one thing I specifically did was like made sure that you could see a little bit of the art from either side when the Dutch doors were flipped over, but also when you opened them, the art kind of overlapped into the page itself. Like for example, on the first spread, there is the calendar, and then on the left, there's going to be a goal section. But once you flip that page over, you can see that the candles and the skull kind of overlap like into the boxes that I drew, even though it's kind of hard to see that when the Dutch door is flipped over it. Same thing goes for the last spread. So this is my expenses page on the last spread, and as you can see, like the goblet, chalice, whatever you want to call it, on the very right overlaps the expenses box, which is a cool effect because I think it makes it look like it's, you know, a one object. It's not like 2 separate images. It's like they're both combined into the same spread. But then whenever the Dutch door is flipped over, you only see a little bit of the chalice and a little bit of the candle on the side. Also at the top, I have this like arrangement of roses draping down over the spread to kind of fill up the top section. So this is a callback to the first page. I don't know if there's too many like vampire motifs in here. I didn't really want to draw another vampire, considering I'm drawing all of this on my bullet journal directly. So I'm going to be using water-based markers that don't bleed through the pages. Now on the first page, I used alcohol markers like I mentioned. So I didn't want to draw the same girl twice because it would look very different with 2 different mediums. So instead, I decided to draw something different, which is like a desk full of what maybe would be inside that windowsill. Maybe there's a table behind the woman, and that's what the spread is depicting. But the roses are still a callback from the first page because I feel like roses are really hard to mess up, and I can do them in 2 different types of markers, alcohol markers or water-based markers, and they would still look generally the same. Now, normally in my bullet journal, I don't like drawing super like realistic and proportionate things. It's like it tires me out. It makes my brain think, and usually I'd like to draw things a little bit more abstract. For example, in my January bullet journal setup on my tracker spread, I had a whale coming out of like the top corner. It was a piece of art that I had drawn and stuck in with sticker paper, and it really wasn't very realistic, obviously, for like a whale to be swimming over like an expenses tracker, which is what it was. It looked kind of, you know, abstract, artistic, and that's the more things that I like to do in my bullet journal. Whereas this, you guys may argue it's like the same thing, but everything here on the bottom looks like it could literally be on a desk that you could like literally walk by. Like for example, if the calendar was hanging up on a wall, this looks like a very realistic setting that you could walk into. Like, you know, a chalice on a desk, a skull on a desk, books, a candle, roses draped above. Like it looks like a room almost. And it's something that I don't like to worry about because I'm not amazing at proportions. I'm not amazing at keeping things realistic. And especially in my bullet journal, I like to draw art that's kind of simpler in the form that I don't want to think about angles and, you know, depth and realism. So this was a challenge for me for sure, and it's not my absolute favorite thing in the world to draw, but I do like that I challenged myself and tried something different. If you see something that's like proportionally incorrect or like it doesn't look right, like for example, the one thing that bothers me the most are these roses at the bottom lying on the table. I drew these before I drew the angle of the actual table, and so they're supposed to be lying on the table, but it actually looks like they're about to fall off, and it looks stupid because it wasn't actually like angled properly. But like I said, if you see anything like proportionally incorrect like that, just ignore it. And I did the best that I could, but it is just a bullet journal theme. Like it's not the end of the world, and you know, in a couple of weeks we'll be moving on to March anyway, so it's like I tried my best. I did something new, played around with a different art style, and that's all I can expect from myself in my bullet journal. But overall, my favorite thing completely about this entire spread isn't even the art, it's the Dutch door, which I haven't ever tried anything like this specifically before. I do Dutch doors a lot, but I haven't done like my entire setup in small Dutch doors that are cut specifically like this. But it's something I could see myself doing a lot because, like I said, I could be a little lazy with the art, or actually I can go really detailed with the art because I wasn't doing 3 different pages, I was only doing one, technically, if you don't include the cover page. So it's like I could spend hours on this art and not stress because I didn't have to make it match other pages because all the pages are using the same art and the same decorations. So it's a cool system. I definitely recommend. I wouldn't say this works if you're like low on time because obviously I spent hours on this, but it does work if you don't feel like drawing, you know, different layouts and different art, because you really don't have to think about one thing, and then as long as your calendar and your other trackers and stuff fits into the Dutch doors that you cut, you're all set and you're good to go. To talk about what's in the Dutch doors for just a second, so on the front, like I said, there is a big calendar for February. Now that I'm back in university, I need all the space I can get because just this 1 week alone, I am super busy with meetings and clubs and assignments and things that I have to do for school, plus other stuff for my job, my business, other things like that. So definitely going to be a busy couple of months, so I wanted to make sure I had a big calendar for February and then a space on the left that says goals, and I'm also going to put like my focus for the month in here. The next spread has my academic planner, which is basically another big chart or graph, but it has rows for each week, specifically Monday through Friday, and then each column is a different class. So I'm basically just going to put any assignments, readings, to-dos that I have to do for that week, and it just helps me keep myself in line, honestly, academically wise, for the month. The last spread are my 2 tracker pages. So on the left I have a habit tracker with 6 different habits I'm tracking this month. When I wrote them in, I think I put like reading the Bible and drinking water, but I'm going to add more habits on my own time just whenever I figure out which ones I want to track this month. And then on the right I have a very tall expenses tracker because I really wanted to manage my budget recently. I've been doing that a lot over the past couple of months, and actually it's more like a year. I've been doing this for like a year. So I always want to make sure I'm including an expenses/budgeting page in my monthly setups. Overall, looking at this theme, it really reminds me of one that I've done before, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Last October, I did a skeleton theme, or like bones theme with line art and cross hatching. So I guess the skeleton could kind of remind you of that, and also the red roses. And then also in October of 2021, I had a different theme, ironically also with the skull. It was a pirate theme and it had like a snake coming out of the skull's eye. But then on the calendar page, I had like a flat lay, almost of like the pirate's desk. And so there was like pearls and jewels and coins and snakes and stuff. So I suppose that's kind of what I'm thinking of here. Unfortunately, that theme that I did in 2021, I absolutely hated. It was my least favorite theme of that year because I was just really in a creative slump and I hated how the the calendar page turned out. So at least it's good that a couple years later I can kind of tweak, but I really like how this turned out, even though it's kind of a similar concept. So I guess that's a good thing to think about, but I just still can't put my finger on exactly what I'm thinking of. There are also many instances where I sketch out themes or plan themes and they never come to fruition because I think of something different. So maybe I planned a theme recently that's very similar to this, but it never actually occurred in my bullet journal. But I don't know. If you guys can remember an old theme that I did that looks a little like this, let me know, because I'm even though it is my bullet journal, I forget a lot of themes that I do sometimes, but I'm a little stunned. Like, it looks super familiar to me. But anyway, I guess that's kind of irrelevant. I'm just glad that I can come up with something that I like, and you know, we'll see how the rest of the month goes with weekly spreads. I feel like so far in 2024, I've been really artsy with my bullet journal. Like last month with the whales theme, I had a huge like watercolor painting moment. This month I'm doing so much like detail, and like this is super maximal of a setup. And then also for my opening setup for 2024, I had an alcohol marker drawing with like a goddess and like gold and stars. It's kind of crazy. Like for some reason, I'm really in a like very artistic mood, and I'm not mad at it, you know? At least I'm on a creative slump, knock on wood. So I hope you guys like this setup and get some good inspiration from it. Like I said, if you ever do replicate anything that I draw or you post anything, definitely tag me. I would love to see it, and I'll also post you on my Instagram story to kind of share with my followers, because I love to support you guys as much as you guys support me. Last month for January, I made printables on my bullet journal setup, and because I'm super busy this week, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it in time for this month. However, let me know if you guys want it, and if you guys like really want it and will buy it, then I'll try to spend time next week making it. If not, then I'll try to make printables for March. But Anyway, this is the final setup. I hope you guys really enjoyed. It took me quite a lot of hours, a couple days actually, but I think the final turnout is really good, and I'm glad that I challenged myself. So if you like this type of video and want to see more content from me, make sure to subscribe. Remember, I have a really cool video coming out next week, so I will see you guys then. Sending my love, wish you guys the most amazing February, and I will see you very soon.